Brady. This is going to be exciting.
Here the Geico restart zone to go. Green flag is out and we're underway.
Just a few laps into this. Oh, the 37's getting loose. Oh, and he saves it. Oh, they're going 3 wide.
We've got a 5-way fight for the win of this race coming to 4 laps to go. He's gonna win it here in spectacular fashion.
Yeah, how you doing? We're live, V-Speed coming to you live from virtual Sonoma Raceway in beautiful Sonoma, California for race number 1 of a 15-race season, the Lincoln Tech IndyCar Series. GLR presents. Hello, I'm Rick Ravon along with Noah Hogard in the booth. And Noah, it looks like we've got a decent field tonight. Of course, most, probably half the field that would have been here is running the Daytona 24 that iRacing has going on this weekend. So a little bit of a smaller field, but it's a quality field, Noah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just looking at the field right now. We got such really close qualifying time, especially in the top 1st to 4th spot. Really close intervals, between those lap times. I'm really excited for this race. I've never really seen Sonoma race with Indy cars before. I've only really seen it with NASCAR cars. So I'm really excited for this race, Rick. I know you, with your experience, you obviously won the IndyCar championship. What are your thoughts going into this? What do you think we should expect here from Sonoma in the IndyCar?
I think tonight you're probably looking at a lot of sideways drivers and a lot of spins. The temperature is hot. Maybe we could get that graphic on the screen. The temperature is pretty hot there today, and we've already seen several spins during the practice. But right now, it's James Silvers in car number 4 that sits on the top with a best lap time of 1:19 flat. He's almost broken into the 1:18s, but it looks like he's done his job. He figures that's as good as it's going to get, and he's off the racetrack. Only Brian Provo, and it looks like Samuel Yosef still out there. Dow Young now brings his car number 12 onto the racetrack. But right now, it looks like James Silvers, we've got a little over a minute left in qualifying, and Brian Provo moves up now to 3rd. And let's see now. Let's take a look at this track information. This is Sonoma, obviously. It's almost 2 miles in length, not quite. 1.99. Why they can't just round it out, I don't know. Elevation, of course, 174 feet high and 14 feet low. So it's quite the roller coaster track, Noah. 12 corners, and this is going to be really kill these tires tonight.
Definitely, and I think one of the biggest factors of Sonoma is the elevation. I mean, I feel like you're just climbing a mountain going right back down in under 30 seconds. It's just full of elevation and turns that can really send your car flying. So I think it's a really important factor for these drivers to make sure they're not pushing it super early in these cold tires, because you can just go spinning in an instant.
Yeah, and you can probably expect that. I hate to say it, but I'm going to call it. Sometime during the first lap, somebody's going to push it somewhere, trying to gain a spot and maybe overdo it. I could be wrong. Hopefully not. I mean, we still have a quality field of drivers here, but it is possible. This track has proved to be very tough during practice. We saw several spins during practice.
Yeah, and I also just want to brush on the fact about the tire change rule. Obviously, we have 2 sets of tires that we need to change, and I'm really curious to see how the strategy of that's going to work out. Are people going to start with their alternates? People going to start with their primaries? How they're going to switch it in pit stops? Because it is a required rule, or else you're going to be a DNF. So I'm curious, Rick, what you think about that when it comes to tires.
That's right. Qualifying is now over. We are now lining up at the grid. And the pole award is going to go to James Silvers, like we talked about a couple of minutes ago. James Silvers with a 119 flat, 119.001 actually, but just almost flat. Mario Jacobellis is going to start alongside in row number 1, 119.1. I thought Jacobellis would get the pole for sure. Row 2 is going to see Brian Provo and then Cody Anderson on the outside. Going back to row number 3, it's going to be Wesley Burke. He was very strong in practice. I'm surprised that he's not a little bit farther up on the grid. And Samuel Joseph, one of the crowd favorites. Who's in row number 4? No.
Well, it's going to be the number 16 of Jamie Lipke, obviously with a 121.007, joined by Jared Green. And then round it all out, you got Cody Turner and Alan Bergen. Oh, and sorry, Daryl Young and Bill Mofield will make up your caboose. I'm sorry, they did not record a time.
Oh, yeah, those guys too.
Yeah.
So here we go. They're off and away. So a 12-car field here tonight. Not normally what we're used to seeing here in a GLR IndyCar broadcast. Last season, we averaged probably somewhere between 18 and 25. A 20-car field is fairly normal for this series, but again, iRacing is running their 24 Hours of Daytona, and it is a really big event in the sim racing world. Let alone iRacing alone, in the sim racing world, everybody looks to that. Lots of broadcasts going on, and a friend of mine, his name is Butch Davis. His team actually won. He won in his division, so congratulations to Butch and his whole team. That was great to see. James Silvers brings the field around, so agonizingly slow behind the pace car.
And I do want to touch on briefly, real quick. I did mention it before. We had to go through our qualifying runs. The different tires and how you strategize with them, Rick. I know you've definitely been behind the wheel of these Indy cars. You won the championship. How do you kind of go about that? How do you kind of sort the tires out in that kind of situation?
Well, Noah, that's something that you would really hope to square away in practice. You got to try to punish those tires and see how much they'll take. And if they take a lot, hey, maybe you'll want to use them for another. Really talking about the red tires. The red tires are the softer compound. You get a lot more grip. You're going to be fast early, but they fade away quick. Depending on the weather, depending on the racetrack, they could either fade away quick or they can hang on pretty good. But that's something that you want to determine in practice. If you don't determine it in practice, you might miss out on some good information that you need to know before you actually get into the race. So we're almost ready to go. And our green flag, of course, is sponsored by Extreme Scoring. And also, let's quickly point out the primary sponsor of this league, Lincoln Tech. Thank you, Lincoln Tech. Lincoln Tech's mission is to provide superior education and training to our students for in-demand careers in a supportive, accessible learning environment, transforming students' lives, adding value to their communities. They're one of the largest automotive technology schools in the nation with 30 campuses. I should know that they are a great school because I used to go to Lincoln Tech. Here they come, rounding the final corner, corner number 12. James Silvers leads them down at a very, very slow pace, keeping pace probably with the pace car. Looks like he's doing about 30 miles an hour, looking for the green. They're going to go on green, and the race is on. It's Sonoma.
Oh, we already have someone spitting on the turn right there. I believe that was Cody Turner that just spun right there. Just like you jinxed it, man. This is gonna be one of those tracks where you got to make sure you're not pushing it too early.
Don't blame me. I was just going by experience. I could see the handwriting on the wall. This is a tough track in hot temperatures, and Mario Jacobellis, meanwhile, has taken the lead. James Silvers drops back to second. Jacobellis, you know what? He is good enough to maybe run away with this, but Silvers has shown great pace in the practice, and we'll just have to keep an eye on this because Mario Jacobellis is probably, in my opinion, the class of the field right now.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I was literally just about to ask you about, who you're going to pick the favorite, because we got a long season ahead of us. And of course we're missing, some of our people, obviously, because of the Daytona race. I was just curious, though, do you have a favorite here, to win the whole championship? I love, betting in like that and putting in my favorite. So, Rick, if you had to pick someone out in this field, is it Mario or is there somebody else you think is going to win this championship this year?
Brian Provo showed great pace all season. Last season, and Tyler Justice is not with us tonight. I have to assume he's also running the Daytona 24. But from what I've seen, I would say Jacob Ellis, because Jacob Ellis showed the most pace. The only problem with Jacob Ellis is that he did not make every race last season, which of course was good for me. But if Jacob Ellis is able to make every race, I would make him the hands-on favorite to win the championship. And he could break my single-season record of winning 10 races. Very possible with Jacob Ellis. He would be the one guy that stands out amongst, a sea of great drivers here tonight. Of course, everybody that didn't show up tonight is at an immediate disadvantage because they're going to score 0 points for this race tonight. So anybody that shows up next week is going to be at a mathematical disadvantage for that championship.
Yeah, this is all about those points. When I was running the ARCA series, for example, I missed like 2 or 3 races, and that just dropped my standings so low to the point where I just had to chase right back up there to get back in the playoffs. So it's really all just about showing up in your participation for sure.
And we were looking at Samuel Joseph, who's running in 6th place. And right now, without a graphic on the screen, it's hard for me to tell. We need to see the graphic. And there it is. Mario Jacobellis still leading the race. Silvers drops back to, he's not that far behind. He's only about a second behind Jacobellis. And, of course, Brian Provo is hanging tough right there in 3rd place. Look at the top 3 right there. 1, 2, 3. This leads me to believe that perhaps, and maybe I'm giving Jacobellis a little too much credit, but I raced with him last season. I know what he could do. Maybe he's taking it easy right now, just sort of managing the gap, because he's smart enough to do something like that. And any race driver worth their salt would play it that way, especially on a day like today where the temperatures are so hot. You've really got to take care of those tires.
I just really think, the whole advantage here is just saving your tires. If you can just save your tires and just go at a pace that's comfortable yet fast, with the race speed, I think you're good to win this race. Because if you're just so low on grip, especially on a track that's hot as Sonoma right now, you're going to be cooked. There's no coming back from just like a race used tire like that. So it's really important to these drivers to make sure they're keeping that pace and making sure their tires are going to be nice and good like that.
No doubt about that. Incidentally, the pole award is the Jam Printing pole award, if I didn't mention that earlier. And for those of you who are watching tonight, if you will just go easy on me, it is my very first broadcast with this series. So I'm trying to get used to, all of the sponsors, all of the shout outs, and which award goes to, the pole award, and this yellow flag is brought to you by, and this flat tire is brought to you by. I've got to get everything lined up, so I'm doing my best. But the pole award is the Jam Printing and Promotion pole award. And of course, that went to James Silvers.
Yeah, and I really think Silvers is in a good position. He's still a little bit far off from Jacob Ellis right now, but I really do think, if he can stay in line and keep his times going, I really think he could catch Mario here.
It certainly is possible. And one thing that we need to mention is that iRacing has now incorporated in the Indy cars, the IR18, because there's 2 other forms of Indy car, really what I would call garbage, the original one. I think it's the IR05. What is it called? I don't know. It was back in a couple of decades ago. Then we had...
Is it the IR15?
IR15, is it? Yeah,
I think so.
You could be right. And, of course, the DW12, which was a very raceable car, but on a road course, if you got 6 inches If you got sideways by more than 6 inches, she gone. Really needed to work on the tire model there. But they've got the IR18. I spoke to Sage Karam not too long ago, who used to race in the Indy cars, and he told me, I'll tell you what, Rick, they got these cars pretty darn close to what they run in real life after that, after the update to the tire model. Battle for second place, meanwhile, James Silvers, Brian Provo, you see that right there on the screen. They're going at it hot and heavy.
Yeah, and they're just like really close together to the point where it almost makes me feel like, if one person just missed their braking point, that can just lead to a collision. And I know, because when I used to race control for this series, if someone would even just breathe on you, the car would just fall apart. So I think it's one of those things where you really need to make sure you're focused on the person in front of you or behind you, because one hit and your race could really be over without a fast repair.
No doubt about it. Oh, we've got a spin. Who was that? Somebody went around in a yellow car with purple on the wings. I see no sponsor on the car. Let's go back and take a look at it. Perhaps you could tell who it was. I don't see a name on the screen here, and I'm still... Say that again? Daryl Young. Thank you. That's a big shout out to Skyler, our race control here in the booth, our producer. There's the replay. I think this is live, and he's still struggling to get up to speed. But that's what happens, Noah. When you spin in these cars, you superheat the tires, and if you think you're just going to get going like the tires are cold, no, they're superheated. And now you're going to slip and slide. You have to really be gentle on that throttle, getting back up to speed.
Yeah, and, we saw it in practice time and time again. If someone would just start spinning like that, they had to, really, be chill and calm with their inputs, or else, like we just saw, the car is just going to spin like that. And that's just something you got to think about as a driver. You got to make sure you're hitting your marks every time, or if you spin like that, you're going to be losing a lot of seconds on the guy in front of you.
I was just taking a look at a separate screen. I saw Mario Jacobellis actually got a little bit sideways coming onto the main straightaway. He was fine. It was just maybe 10 degrees sideways. Not too bad, but Jacobellis, very smart race car driver, got it back together, still maintaining the lead, now 1.4 seconds ahead of James Silvers. Brian Provo still about a half second behind Silvers. Let's go through our top 10 at the moment. We just talked about our top 3. Fourth place is Cody Anderson right now, car number 20. There you see Cody. That's a pretty paint job, isn't it? Wesley Burke,
definitely.
That's what we're looking at right now. He sits in 5th. And then one of the crowd favorites, Samuel Joseph, in that Bucky-sponsored car. Everybody loves Sam Joseph. He sits in 6th place right now. 7th place, car number 17, Jared Green. I believe he's new to this circuit. And sitting in 8th, car number 16, Jamie Lipke, did pretty good in the last season. Last season, he was a contender. 9th place, Cody Turner, car number 13. Rounding out the top 10, Daryl Young, car number 12. We just saw him have an incident on the racetrack. Back underway.
And, there is one thing, Rick, that I do want to...
Second place. Battle for second place. Sorry to interrupt, Noah, but Brian Provo has really narrowed that gap. He had it down to under 1/10 of a second when I looked up at the score, timing and scoring. But look at him. He's right there. He's not letting Silvers go. And now into the inside as James Silvers cooks it a little bit wide, and it looks like Brian Provo is going to be able to pick up second place. Now the question becomes, will he be able to reel in our leader from the drop, Mario Jacobellis? He's got 2.5 seconds to do it. We got to keep an eye on that gap and see if it starts to come down. Jacobellis may have been taking it easy on his tires. Maybe Provo was doing the same thing. Who's got more tire left than the next? We're going to find out very shortly here, Noah.
Yeah, and just like I said, this is all about what the car in front of you is doing. And if you can make a move like that just to get around somebody, that's going to give you just such a huge advantage to get to the leader. And I think they're probably going to draft here maybe to try to get to the leader here.
Well, we shouldn't see the first round of pit stops for... Well, they're on lap number 9 right now. Jacob Ellis just began lap number 9. So we're looking around lap 14. That will make this a 3-stop race. Keeping an eye on the gap, still 2.5 seconds. So Brian Provo comes around Silvers, picks up second place, and has not been able to close. Wait a minute, now it's down to 2.1, but that might fluctuate a little bit. Timing and scoring is not always 100% accurate all the way around the lap. So we'll just continue to monitor that. But Jacob Ellis is not running away, and I'm showing 2.1, 2.2. So maybe Provo is able to reel him in. It's tightening up.
And Rick, you know, before I got interrupted with such a great battle right there, I just wanted to talk to you. I know recently the IndyCar has gone through a hybrid update, you know, with hybrid fuel and stuff like that. I'll be honest with you, I'm not really too sure about how that hybrid system works. I bet some viewers at home might not know either. I was just curious to know how the hybrid system kind of affects these cars.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for reminding me. I started talking about that, and then we started talking about how terrible the IR-15 was, and the DW12 was good on ovals and blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, IndyCar has finally implemented the hybrid system on these cars. Now, how does that work? The hybrid system is something that you can use at any time. It's not like the push to pass. They also have the push to pass, which you only get, I believe it's 200 seconds of push to pass, which, oh, we've got a spin. A car goes around right in front of our leader, Mario Jacob. Another spin, and it looks like Darrell Young again. Darrell Young went around again, but there it is. Okay, it was Darrell Young. So our broadcast feed is not getting the paint job that I'm seeing on a different feed over here, but you could blame Trading Paints for that. It is kind of finicky, so I thought they were two separate cars. But Darrell Young back out and going again. Now the gap between Jacob Ellis and Brian Provo moves up to about 2.8 seconds. So I believe that spin of Darrell Young that enabled Jacob Ellis to pull away just a little bit more. But back to the hybrid system. The hybrid system you have on board for all races, ovals and the road courses. The push to pass you've only got on for road courses. Now, tonight we're on a road course, so guess what? You've actually got both available. And if you use it smartly, you could deploy that hybrid at some point on the racetrack and then charge it up in the same lap and use it again, if you know how to use it. It does give you a boost of speed, a little horsepower boost, and you know, some guys are going to utilize it. Some may not even know it's available. I mean, let's keep one thing in mind. This is sim racing. You know, none of these guys are professionals. So some of them are going to actually know that it's there and use it, and some of them will have no idea. But to use it properly, to actually maximize the benefit, is where the challenge is going to come from, Noah.
Yeah, and I just think it's so interesting like that, how drivers can strategize, you know, when am I gonna use this? When am I not gonna use this? When's the good opportune like time to do it? I just think that's what I love so much about the Indy cars, that there's just so much strategy involved with it.
Around goes Darrell Young again, by the way. Darrell Young, that's really having a tough go of it here tonight. I saw that yellow and purple car, and he spun again. Darrell Young running in 11th place. There's only one car behind him. That's Alan Bergen, who's having a worse night than Young at this point. "11 laps complete. We've got 40 laps the scheduled distance, and we're going to start seeing pit stops in another lap or two, and that's going to make things a little interesting here as our leader comes up on a slower car. It looks like Alan Bergen, and he's going to put Alan a lap down. So the lapping of slower traffic has begun, and I've got to be honest with you, that's one of the things that I do miss about the good old days of IndyCar racing. Of course, my time was really the 80s. And you had the fast guys, you had the mid-packers, and you had the slow guys. Of course, really, mostly it was team finances You know, if you had a fast car, you were going to be quick. If you were a good driver, well, maybe you could make the best of what you've got. But slower traffic, watching the Indy cars come up through the slower traffic as, whoa, boy, Jacob Ellis gets it just a little sideways again coming onto the main straightaway. But that was one of the things that I used to really enjoy about the old days of IndyCar racing, was watching the leaders dice it up through traffic. You don't really see that anymore.
Yeah, and I just think that's a really interesting way just make these races seem more fun like that. Just because when you're passing by traffic, it's just important to think about how can I move around this in a way I'm not going to wreck my car, you know?
Brian Provo is on the pit road. He's the first one to come in, and it's on lap 13. We thought maybe the leaders would be able to get another lap in, and Jacob Ellis is still out there, so he's going to be able to complete lap 13. But Provo comes in a little bit early, maybe looking for that undercut.
Yeah, and pitting strategies like this are just so interesting to me, just because it's really up to the driver and how they want to situate it. You know, do they want a short pit? Do they want to stay out a little bit longer? It's all about how a driver can think about their fuel and how it can last in the long run. Because I've seen it before race controlling. You know, people can save their fuel and they end up winning the race on a strategy call that no one was really expecting.
Our leader, Mario Jacob Ellis, now on the pit road. And so is James Silvers, our pole sitter. So we'll keep an eye on these two. And also we've got to watch, where is he? Sixth place, Brian Provo. He was the first one to pit. Now, will he be able to gain a little bit of time on our leader, Jacob Ellis, by pitting early? Well, we'll have to wait and see about that.
And I'm also curious to see the tire switch, you know, if we see any tire switches here, how that's going to work out and play. Obviously, one of the tires warms up a lot quicker than the other one. So, and especially on this track where the track temp is really hot, I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out.
Well, funny you should mention that, because Jacob Ellis has stayed on the reds. He chose the red tires for the second stint, despite having a 3-second lead. He feels that this is going to give him an advantage. Now let's take a look. Jamie Lipke has not pitted yet, still on the red tires. Wesley Burke still has yet to pit. He started out on the hard compound tires. They do last longer, but Jacob Ellis, and we talked about this at the beginning of this broadcast, at some tracks, the red tires will actually last longer than you expected, and then maybe you're going to want to use them again. On other tracks, the black tires would be the ones that you want to have. You know, it depends. But Mario Jacob Ellis has decided the reds are good enough. I'm going to throw them on for another stint. As Wesley Burke, our leader, because Jacob Ellis pitted, now he's on pit road. Jamie Lipke running in third. He would be the next one to pit. And we have to say, Jamie's probably going to come down, as we see in the background there, once again, going around or getting sideways, getting in the dirt. And here comes Jamie Lipke. Time to make that pit stop.
And it looks like I'm seeing Provo going back into the pits. I'm really curious to see what this could be about, Rick.
Could have had some minor contact out there that we missed. I mean, there's been action all over this racetrack. You're bound to miss something, right? Here's a nice race for second place. Look at this battle between Wesley Burke and Cody Anderson. Boy, this is heating up. And by the way, these two, look at that. Cody Anderson comes around and picks up second place. These two are running 16 seconds behind Mario Jacob Ellis. 16 seconds. And we're only on lap number 15. While we have a minute here, let's give thanks to ATYL above the yellow line. A shout out to that sponsor. Thanks for coming on board with us. There you see the graphic, ATYL Media. Thanks for what you guys do. and we're glad to have you aboard.
And one thing about ATYL Media, I can't give them enough thanks because they help make Goat Talk Live possible, and I absolutely love tuning into Goat Talk Live whenever I can every Thursday. And without ATYL Media, we could just not make that possible. So I do want to thank them for what they do for us.
Well, they certainly do. They do a phenomenal job. They do. Yes, they are great. We're very, very happy to have them on board, and they do a phenomenal job. Still looking at the battle for second place, Cody Anderson, Wesley Burke. That's kind of settled down a little bit now, but Samuel Joseph, James Silvers, they're going at it right now. There you see him. There's Joseph, and Silvers has been running him down. I'm still scratching my head trying to figure out how Jacob Ellis got such a huge lead, but Samuel Joseph and James Silvers now find themselves in a head-to-head battle, and that battle is for fourth place.
And I'm surprised by Joseph here. Doesn't really have the best track record when it comes to keeping his four wheels on the racetrack. I'm still surprised to see him not flipping in the air right now, but I gotta give it to Joseph. I think he's been doing a very good performance so far. Currently sitting in fourth, and I mean that's pretty good for Joseph. I won't lie.
Well, rumor has it that he's been training with Mario Andretti. I don't know how true that is, but okay, I'm lying. He is doing a great job, but look at Silvers reeling him in. Oh, cuts down so low on the corner. You have to be careful on the accelerator coming off that corner. We've seen even our leader, Jacob Ellis, get sideways a few times. Oh, this is just such a good battle. Such a good fight to watch. Now, the question becomes, is Joseph going to get desperate and push it a little bit too hard and end up spinning? Or is he going to be able to maintain his focus, stay cool and calm under pressure? It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But James Silvers, now remember, he was our pole sitter for this race. So we know he's got the speed. But then again, he is following in a wake, and look, there he goes. And they just barely touch wheels, but Silvers was able to get around Joseph. But now Joseph comes right back, and he may have lost his right front wing. We're waiting to see if that was a glitch of iRacing. They did make contact. The wing is still not attached, so it looks like Samuel Joseph is going to have a serious disadvantage, not as bad on a road course as it would have on an oval, and perhaps Silvers might have damage as well, but we're going to have to keep an eye on Samuel Joseph to see how that car number 36 handles now. He's missing his right front wing.
That's definitely something really scary. I'm not really too sure about how when it comes.
He gets the door slammed on him. I can't believe that. They're coming up to lap. I'm not sure who that is, but Samuel Joseph absolutely had that door slammed on him, and he's just trying to come around, and he's fighting for fourth place.
And I just think, with like I was saying earlier, just bringing on these cars can just like have a part go flying like that. And I'm really curious what Joseph is thinking right now with all this pressure behind him now, and now with this damage. From a driver's perspective, I would definitely be a little bit irritated, a little bit frustrated with that.
Well, I'm not sure. When I glanced up, look at him. Look at how far he pushed out wide there. That's a result of not having that right front wing. And as you can see, Silvers is not going anywhere. He's staying there. Technically speaking, Joseph is at a disadvantage without that right front wing. So if he thought it was difficult to hold off Silvers before, he's really got his work cut out from now, especially in these corners. You might look to see Silvers come around anytime now because they're coming up to the S's.
I will say Joseph is doing a really good job right now at blocking, especially with such an underpowered car now with that wing removed. But he is still whipping it around and still trying to have Silvers not pass him.
Samuel Joseph driving the wheels off that car number 36. We'll just keep an eye on this battle while we could tell you that the lead is just a stable lead for Mario Jacob Ellis. 19, almost 20 seconds now over Cody Anderson. And Wesley Burke about a second behind Anderson, but the battle on the racetrack, the real battle is the one that we're watching. Well, we were watching. Fourth place, now back to it, Samuel Joseph and James Silvers. This is the battle of all battles right now on the racetrack. Now, here's a section right here. This left-hander, this sweeping left-hander, which, to be honest, I don't really like that corner when I'm driving this track, but that's the corner where James Silvers should have his advantage over Joseph because of the lack of that front downforce. Now, what Joseph could do, and maybe has done already, was adjusted his roll bars to soften the fronts and stiffen up the rears to help that car turn a little bit. That would be his only alternative to missing his right front wing. You know,
And, as you just mentioned, yeah, definitely. And as you just mentioned, you know, the adjusting of sway bars and stuff like that. That's another thing I love about the Indy cars is how adjustable it is, like on the fly, just like that when you're racing. You know, Rick, is that something you're like really focused about when you're switching around your sway bars and stuff like that? Is that something you touch a lot, or is that something you kind of just like leave there for a minute, maybe change it a couple laps later?
It depends. Sometimes the fronts are going to wear faster than the rears, and sometimes vice versa. So you tend to want to make adjustments depending on, you know, and now we have on the dashboard on these IR18s, thanks to iRacing, as Silvers looks again, we have on the dashboard, we can see live our tire temperatures, which is a huge blessing because, you know, for somebody like me in particular, we could talk about those who have VR headsets, and that would be me. You can't, if you have a third-party app that gives you all that information, you can't see it because you've got VR on, and it doesn't come through the VR. It only comes through on your monitor. So when you have the VR on, which I'll live and die by, I love my VR. Couldn't race without it. Could not race without it. It's the best thing ever. And whew, a little sideways there in that blue car. But now we can see the tire temperatures. So what you want to do, depending on the track, depending on how the tires are wearing, yes, you definitely want to make slight adjustments during the run. And I have to assume that Samuel Joseph has made the proper adjustment because he is still, and now he's just absolutely pulling away from James Silvers. Silvers now falls back 7 seconds. What did we miss?
And it's just so fascinating to me how we can go from talking about a really intense battle, and then a couple of minutes later it's just not even a battle anymore. That's just something that about these Indy cars that is just so special, is that they can like just make or change a race just in seconds.
Well, something must have happened to Silvers, Noah, because you don't just fall back 7 seconds for no reason. He must have spun off the course because it's maintained around 7 seconds. Now 6.9, but right around 7 seconds. So he must have had an off course, and unfortunately we missed it. Brian Provost still sits in 6th place. I need to get used to the paint schemes of these cars, so I know who I'm looking at all times, because as you can see right there, we're looking at a black and silver car, and I'm not sure who that is because, you know, it doesn't show on the screen. So forgive me for that. Don't have that information. Now we're looking at Wesley Burke, as I have been so informed. This is a battle for second place. Cody Anderson. Oh, no.
Whoa.
What just happened there? Got in a little bit too hot, it looks like, and we've got another. And look, it's going to be a drag race. Oh, we go immediately to the instant replay. Yes, he got in there a little bit too hot, and now Wesley Burke is missing his left front wing. Back to live action, and that's already been settled. Now it looks like Cody Anderson solidly has second place. Wesley Burke falls back, and now he's got a similar disadvantage to what Samuel Joseph had. Now, here's the tricky part. At the next pit stop, which should come in probably another 5 laps or so, what do you do? Do you let the simulator repair your front wing in real time and save that fast repair, or do you have it instantly repaired? If you have the simulation repair it, it takes about 7 seconds. If you have your fast repair take care of it, it's repaired instantly. Will they want to save that fast repair as a just in case, Or are they going to have, I mean, what is the choice going to be?
Well, like you were saying earlier about the sway bar, they can always just change that sway bar. I personally I think I'm going to keep that fast repair just for future. It's always nice for me as a sim racer to keep that fast repair in my pocket just in case anything crazy happens. You never know what's going to happen in the world of sim racing. So, personally, I think they're going to keep it, and they're probably just going to adjust their sway bar like you said earlier.
See, yeah, well, there's two ways to look at it. That's a good way to look at it, Noah, but then you have to think of it this way. We have passed the halfway point of this race 4 laps ago. By the time they pit, there's going to be, maybe 10 laps to go. And now here's the thing. If you were running, say, 6th place, or, if the distance between who was in front of you and who was behind you was, say, maybe 10 seconds either way, you might want to let the sim do it and hang on to that fast repair just in case. But if it's a fairly tight battle for the position that you're running, you might want to get that fast repair and maintain that position. So again, it becomes a tough call. So what I'm going to have to do is for the next broadcast, I'm going to have to put a headset on so I could specifically hear our race control talk to me, because right now I've got a couple of voices coming through the same, and I've got the engine, so I have some adjustments that I need to make. So if you'll forgive me, it is a little bit of trial and error here. We set up as best as we could and try to prepare for everything that we could, but sometimes it's difficult for me to hear my boy Skyler when he's giving me pertinent information. So while we've got another slight bit of a lull in the action here, let's just talk about our GLR web store. Please support the sport and the mission with Goat Locker Racing at glrwebstore.com. Over there, you'll find quality racing apparel, hats, and gear, all kinds of gear. And every purchase supports veterans, active military, and first responders. Your order also helps fuel our mission and fight back against mental health challenges facing our community. Great gear, real purpose. Visit glrwebstore.com.
And I will say about that web store, I've gotten a t-shirt from there before. It is the softest t-shirt I have ever owned, maybe in my entire life. Okay, and I don't want to, brag on them because they're our sponsor. They seriously have really comfy and really awesome gear. So I would 100% support them if you can, because I got a hat and I got a t-shirt and they are amazing to wear.
Well, I got to run over to the GLR web store and get myself one of those soft t-shirts. Incidentally, I was just going to say, side note, just a side note for Skyler. When you say something, I'll need you to speak up a little bit. I'm having a little hard time hearing you.
And I was saying, while we were learning about the GLR web store, I did see Provo got into the dirt there and lost about. Speaking of that,
sorry to interrupt again, but there was some action on the racetrack, and that was. Wait for it. Let's see who's running behind the 48. Who's running behind the 48? I see a 48 on the car. Mario Jacobellis. So that car would be a lap down, 2 laps down. That was not Daryl Young. That was not Cody Turner. It might have been Alan Bergen. Alan Bergen. Process of elimination. Ran off the course just a little bit, right in front of our leader, Mario Jacobellis, who, by the way, has now a 27-second lead over Cody Anderson. Did I call it, or did I call it?
You called it.
I called it. I see what the problem is. Alan Bergen needs to move those. He's locking up the front tires, this poor guy. Somebody needs to tell him, can we get him in the booth? Can we just yank him out of the car while he's driving and put him in? Say, you need to move that brake bias a little bit back towards the rear, dude. I mean, he's killing his front tires. I see it just about every corner. Not to mention, oh, whoa, our leader just went off the course. Mario Jacobellis just went off the course. quickly right back on. It wasn't really a big deal, but oh no, he lost 2 seconds. What is he going to do? He might lose the race now. He went off the course, but quickly right back on. Just went straight off of it and just turned the wheel to the right and said, no big deal. Let me just get it put in the right direction. Got plenty of a gap. No problem.
And I will say, while that happened, I believe Cody Anderson just pitted, and we're going to see other people pitting here as well.
Yes, Cody Anderson is in the pits. Samuel Joseph is also in the pits. He just entered pit road. So we'll keep an eye on that. I don't think that's going to change anything in the standings. And our leader is in. Mario Jacobellis is in. And, well, this comes on lap 27 for all of these guys. Mario Jacobellis really with nothing to worry about. He's got a solid lead. As long as he keeps the shiny side pointing up, he'll be okay.
And I'm curious there, we did talk about it earlier, how if you want to spend that fast repair or let him repair, I believe Joseph got that fast repair, so that is completely out of his pocket now.
Yes, he did. So he did decide to use the fast repair. I think that is smart, considering there's only next time by there's going to be 12 laps to go. And incidentally, our leader did switch tire compounds. It's not going to make much of a difference. It certainly isn't going to. It's not going to cost him, 30 seconds of a difference. We'll wait to see what second place puts on. But again, I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference, even if second place puts on the red tires with a gap like that and with the pace that Jacobellis has had all day long. I just can't see him losing this race. He just has to keep those tires on the. Oh, and somebody behind him goes around, and I think that is Alan Bergen in that blue and black car again. But that was a savage spin. Alan Bergen, was it Alan Bergen? There he is. Oh, Jared Green. Jared Green. Yeah, let's take a look at the replay. I mean, yeah, he really, look at that. Here it comes. Going down that that sweeping left-hander. I think this is turn, what is this, turn 6? And around she goes. Now, I believe this is on cold tires. Black tires are worse. Black tires are worse when they're cold than the reds, obviously, because they're a harder compound tire. But meanwhile, back at the front of the field, Jacobellis still, well, he's got a 24-second lead, so Wesley Burke did close in a little bit. Burke is on the reds. And Cody Anderson, let's take a look at the gap now between Wesley Burke and Cody Anderson. Cody Anderson, wait a minute. Burke, did Burke go around? I think Burke had an issue. Burke came into the pits. Burke's in the pits. I'm sorry, again, losing track here. My apologies. Cody Anderson picks up second place. Wesley Burke was able to stay out a little bit longer than we anticipated. And Brian Provo still sits in fourth place. Jamie Libke now moves up to fifth. Nice solid run for Jamie. Samuel Joseph runs in sixth. James Silvers, our pole sitter, drops all the way back to seventh. 1 minute, 7 seconds behind the leader. So he's had a very difficult race here tonight. Jared Green sits in eighth as Bill Millfield calls in that he's coming into the pits. And he's sitting in ninth place, just about to give him a call in ninth. Cody Turner rounds out our top 10. And off the racetrack, oh no! No! Not only off the racetrack, but off the track and into the wall goes Samuel Joseph. And look at the left front wiggle now. He's in big, deep, wide trouble. Let's take a look. He comes into turn number 1. Watch this. Just hit the brakes too late and just slid straight into the wall. Now, you see, we were talking about the fast repair earlier. Now, it was a smart move to take it because he was able to hold on to his spot. But now if he has a problem, he doesn't have that fast repair anymore, Noah.
Yeah,
more
we're just
trouble
about
on the racetrack.
More trouble.
Who is that? That's Wesley Burke. Wesley Burke runs wide. And I'm looking at did he lose a spot there? Wesley Burke, James Silvers. James Silvers was able to come around, pick up third place. Wow, that was a costly mistake for Burke.
Yeah, and I believe Wesley Burke has received a drive-through penalty. That is definitely going to be affecting him. Yeah.
What would that be for?
I believe it was for an incident. I'm not really too sure.
Oh, this is a race control thing, not an iRacing thing.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Okay, well, we'll wait and see if, in fact, Wesley Burke will serve this penalty. So a very interesting turn of events here. Burke has some serious trouble. James Silvers, who was running really outside of the top 5, now moves up to 3rd, but he's got a ways to go to catch 2nd place, about 37 seconds to 2nd place. And of course, Cody Anderson, sitting in 2nd, has got 31 seconds to catch the leader. And that's not going to happen unless Jacob Ellis makes a serious mistake. Meanwhile, let's take a look. Samuel Joseph in the pits. I think his day might be done. It's got to be done. He doesn't have a fast repair, and he just destroyed that left front wheel. So Joseph is going to fall through the field. I don't know. Let's see. 5 laps down is 12th place, Alan Bergen. Samuel Joseph just might finish dead last in the field tonight. What a shame that would be.
Yeah, that's just awful. I think he had such a great race today. It was running really well, and I think I hit him with a broadcaster jinx. So that's my bad, Samuel. I was just talking about how good he was doing.
That's right.
Really
We
sorry
blame
about
you.
that.
It's your fault.
Yeah,
We
I'm
blame
sorry.
you. Oh, look at this. Samuel. Oh, I'm sorry. Jacob Ellis got sideways. We missed it. Jacob Ellis really got sideways and had to hang on to it. And now he's off the track again. Jacob Ellis having some serious problem. What's going on with Jacob Ellis? Let's take a look at the replays. He came into turn 1 and just couldn't quite get on the brakes early enough. Okay, he was okay there, but then got on the power, and that's when the rear broke loose. And then he had further trouble. Let's stick with this shot. Watch as he comes over the hump here. And into the grass he goes again. What in the world is going on with car number 48? Let's go back to live action now.
I think that was just a fantastic job right there by Jacob Ellis to just keep that car alive. I personally, if that spin would happen to me, I think I would have lost that car right there. But that was amazing car control to keep that thing still on the racetrack, saving it.
No doubt about that. Right now we're watching Wesley Burke and James Silvers going at it again. I just lost my feed. Okay, it came back. But there's Wesley Burke and James Silvers going at it. And Burke was able to pick up the final podium spot. And of course, that would be 3rd place. And Silvers is falling back a little bit. We'll keep an eye on this battle. It's the tightest battle on the racetrack right now. Of course, Jamie Lipke back in 6th, Jared Green in 7th. There's 4.5 seconds separating those two. We'll let you know if that battle tightens up, but back to the battle for 3rd. Burke still has it. Silvers, we'll keep an eye on the gap. It's about a half second now, and we're looking at 7 laps to go the next time they cross the start-finish line. So we want to remind you that InVets is also one of our great sponsors. InVets, of course, aids in transitioning to civilian life, focusing on job placement and finding the right community for veterans and their families to ensure their success and happiness. They are a veteran nonprofit in Indiana with the goal of bringing veterans to that state to live and work. Thank you, Indiana veterans. Thank you. What a fantastic organization that is. Bravo. Kudos. Battle for 3rd place, meanwhile, is lengthening just a little bit. Now about a second between Wesley Burke, who runs in 3rd, and Jacob Ellis he got sideways again. I've got the monitor on Jacob Ellis. He's really struggling on those hard tires. But meanwhile, Burke pulls over a second now over James Silvers, our pole sitter.
And I just think it's fascinating how Jacob Bellis is having these issues with his tires, yet still has a 32-second gap as I'm speaking right now. I find that just amazing.
Well, it is amazing, but it's also no surprise. Jacob Ellis, he's been the class of the field this entire race. And I did predict his success here today. Can't call it a jinx. Now, if something happens to him, does that mean I jinxed him because I said, because he's my pick to win it?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, don't say that. Well, you never know what could happen. Jacob Ellis has been solid, although he has been struggling as of late on these black tires. And now you can see clearly why. And he goes wide here. Look at this. Can you see how he's struggling on those blacks? The black tires should be warm by now. He's been on those tires for a good, 6 or 7 laps or so. But he's still struggling. He is tiptoeing. I mean, he's got an eggshell underneath that throttle. The only way Jacob Ellis is going to lose this race is if he hits the wall. That's the only way. Because a little off, he still has plenty of gap behind, Cody Anderson sitting in second place.
And I do want to say, as this race is winding down, it's almost amazing how almost half the field now has been lapped by Jacob Ellis here in the leaders. I mean, do you think the full field could get lapped, or do you think it's just not enough time?
No, at this point, I mean, Cody Anderson, he would have to, let's see, it takes about, what is a lap time? 1:20, 1:19, something like that. And right now, the lead on second place Cody Anderson is quote unquote only 34 seconds. So he would have to pull another 30 seconds, or maybe, if all of these guys had offs in the closing laps, then maybe. If not, there's no way on sheer pace that Jacob Ellis can lap the entire field. That's not going to happen. I just heard a big moan from the crowd. They all sighed in disbelief. Samuel Joseph has left the server. Nobody likes that.
A sad, sad day.
I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. Yeah, lap traffic.
I do want to note, though, we did talk about how Wesley Burke got that drive-through penalty. I believe that was earlier in the race, and we just did not catch it. I think he just went down pit road earlier when we weren't watching, Rick, so that might explain that.
Yeah, I was actually watching him. I didn't want to say another word about it, but apparently, yeah, he may have served that penalty because he's still sitting in third. You know what? He's got 2 seconds over James Silver, so Burke's got the pace on Silver's. Still, that gap has pretty much maintained itself. So no trouble there for Wesley Burke. He should be able to cruise on to a podium finish here tonight. Yeah, well, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to say whoever, when the camera switches to another car, don't be afraid to speak out who it is. Just talking to Skylar, our race director here, because me, the rookie, still getting used to the paint schemes. So I don't know who's who yet. A few of the cars I do, but not everybody. So I believe that was Jacob Ellis letting the lap car of, was that Mulfield?
I believe that was Provo.
Oh, Brian Provo, right. He just let Brian Provo come around, which is a very smart move. There's no sense in throwing anything away, because now coming to the start-finish line, there will just be 3 laps to go. No sense in pushing it. Just let him go. And now that I think about it, that may have been the reason why Jacob Ellis was having some trouble out there. Maybe he was pushing a little bit on those black tires on this slick racetrack to stay ahead of Provo, and finally he decided, you know what, the heck with it, just let him go. Why risk it? So Wesley Burke and James Silvers, they renew a battle that we were watching just a few laps ago. The gap, oh, and around he goes, James Silvers, unbelievable. Oh, that's what happens. He's on those red tires, and if you push it just a little bit farther, around she goes. She just gone. So James Silvers, we were starting to get excited about that battle, but now Wesley Burke solidly in third place. James Silvers drops back almost 8 seconds behind Burke. So here we are. Jacob Ellis still with the lead. Cody Anderson still in second. Wesley Burke was under threat from Silvers. No longer. James Silvers runs in fourth. Brian Provo fifth. Jamie Lipke runs in sixth. Jared Green seventh. Bill Molefield eighth. Cody Turner ninth. And Samuel Joseph out of the race. First car out will finish in 10th place. We've got 7 cars left on the lead lap. Jacob Ellis, Mario Jacob Ellis now with a 42-second lead. An outstanding lead.
I gotta say, I think it is just such a great performance by Jacob Ellis tonight. You know, even with the couple of issues that he's had, especially on these harder tires, he has still maintained such a huge gap from second place, and I just got to applaud him for that.
You know what else we have to applaud him for? I'm looking at my timing and scoring. My timing and scoring shows that he has not used 1 second of push to pass. He still has all 200 seconds left in that car number 48. Now, that's pretty impressive. Here he comes for the second to the last time. Coming onto the main straightaway. Once again, Mario Jacob Ellis looks ahead, and he can see that white flag. 1 lap to go. And of course, our white flag final lap is sponsored by Glove Station. Quality gloves and protective gear to get you across the finish line.
And as you were saying that, Rick, I believe Provo just spun out right there. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know. I'm looking at the gap between Provo and Silvers, and it has lengthened out just a couple of seconds. So yeah, he might have had an off somewhere, but we missed it. But that's okay. The focus right now, as there are no close battles through the front of the field, is back on Mario Jacob Ellis. He has had a nearly, and I say nearly because he did go off the track a couple of times, but even for an expert like Jacob Ellis, is almost to be expected under conditions like this. They have been brutal. Mario Jacob Ellis. Now look, there you see it again. Again on those black tires. And again, it further emphasizes why he chose to run the red tires for the first couple of stints. But here comes Mario off corner number 12. He looks just ahead of him. The checkered flag is out, and Mario Jacob Ellis takes win number 1, the first race of the Spring GLR IndyCar Series, sponsored by Lincoln Tech season.
And I just think this was the perfect run for Mario. I mean, obviously not perfect, as, you know, we had a couple of spins and issues, but he really kept his composure and he really kept his foot on the gas to get him there to the finish.
He certainly did. And now we're looking back. About 45 seconds later, Cody Anderson is going to pass the start-finish line to complete his race. There he is. Behind him, of course, 26 seconds behind him is Wesley Burke. But there's Cody Anderson crossing the start-finish line. Cody Anderson, car number 20, comes across the line in second place. Let's take a look now at Wesley Burke. There he is as he bounces over those curbs. 27 seconds behind Cody Anderson. Boy, the field really did string themselves out. And you know what? It was a little bit of a better race than I thought it was going to be from what I was looking at in practice. With all of these drivers having so many offs, it now stands to reason, now that I think about it, looking back, well, you have to push it. Look at Wesley Burke. Kick it sideways, coming to the line, and he slows down coming. He's like, you know what? Let me just make it here safely. There we go. Okay. He'll get there. Wesley Burke. What a great job from him. Nice podium finish for him. Mario Jacobellis at the start-finish line live, doing donuts, celebrating his win. Waiting to see what he's going to do next. Is he going to stop there? Nope. Oh, he disappears. Okay, well, he's heading over to victory lane, and that's where we're going to go in just a few minutes, just as soon as we pay a couple of bills and pay homage to our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Superior quality, ultimate protection, and the highest level of craftsmanship. We make our gloves for the hard worker that wakes up every morning and gives 110%. You deserve the highest quality protective gear that's going to work for you, day in, day out. We know it can be tough deciding what companies to trust for your hard-earned money. It's all in our name. We've mastered our craft to help you master yours. We make our gloves rugged, durable, and designed for you. Whatever the job is, we have you covered. We are your glove station.
I had the timing screen on. I didn't realize you couldn't hear me when the timing screen is on, but welcome back to Sonoma Raceway, where we're sitting with Mario Jacobellis, who absolutely dominated this race. And Mario, I've got to ask you, what was your thinking on that very first lap when the green flag drew? Were you thinking, I've got to get the lead and hold on to it? Or were you going to just kind of play it safe because of how slippery this racetrack is, especially on cold tires?
My initial thought going into it was to just play it safe and kind of see how it played out, but it just so happened I got a good jump on the start, I guess, and I pulled the hybrid and got as good of a run as I could going up into turn 1 and 2, and the guy to my inside backed out of it, so I just got by him, and at that point I decided I just need to try and stay there, and it worked out pretty well, I guess.
You had a nice battle for a little while anyway with our pole sitter, James Silvers, and then all of a sudden they had problems, and after the first pit stop, next thing you knew, you had about a 15-second lead. Did that surprise you?
It did. I had no idea what happened there because, you know, during the pit cycle, some people stayed a little longer, some people went a little short, so I didn't know how I was going to play out, and then all of a sudden, once everything kind of shook out at the end of that first cycle there, I saw that, and I wondered what happened, if someone had issues in the pits or what really happened, and I guess it just ended up being a little tricky there, and I almost crashed myself out a few times, especially on cold tires. It was real tricky out there, that was for sure.
Yeah, we saw that. We saw that. That brings me to my next question. Of course, you have to switch tire compounds at some point. You hesitated and, in fact, chose not to switch to the blacks on the first pit stop. You chose to use the black tires on your for the final stint. Why that decision?
I kind of figured I wanted to try and pull as big of a gap as I could on that second stint there, just in case, because I didn't get to practice on the primaries. Just in case I was going to be super slow on those or something, and hopefully have enough of a buffer there to hopefully not have anyone catch up. And then obviously after that first pit cycle, I had already quite a big gap, so I probably could have got away with going primary second stint. But yeah, that was kind of my thought process there, so just build as big of a gap as I could on those alternates there.
And once you switched over to the black tires, we noticed that even after the tires warmed up, at some point you were struggling. How bad were those blacks?
Man, I felt like I just didn't have any front grip in those things. As soon as I kind of got them up to temp, they didn't really get up to temp. It felt like it was really slick out there that whole time, and I was struggling with the rear on those alternates a little bit towards the end of the stint, but just being a little gentle on the right foot helps with that. But it's a lot more difficult when you're struggling with front grip, especially in these things. So yeah, I was a little all over the place on those primaries for that last stint there.
Yeah, we saw that. Well, before we turn you over to thank your sponsors and everybody that matters, let's see if Noah has anything to ask.
Yeah, just one more thing. I just want to ask you, is because I know you were had a huge gap. Like it was almost 30 seconds, 40 seconds at times. Is there any point where you just kind of just relax a little bit, or are you just focused 100% on your goal of winning that race?
There's definitely times where I was easing up a little bit. I mean, you saw in that last stint there, I let I forget his name there, but
Brian
I let him
Provo.
by.
Provo,
Yeah, Brian
yeah.
by because he was hounding me on those alternates. So I
I
figured
know
I
it.
saw that there's a gap there, and I didn't want to really mess with his race. I knew I wasn't really under pressure, so unfortunately ended up spinning out there on that last lap. But yeah, he or second to last lap, whatever it was for them. But yeah, I kind of eased off a little bit once I realized that I had such a big gap on those primaries, and I was struggling as bad as I was there. So I didn't want to force the issue too much and end up putting myself in the wall.
Well, we were watching that when Provo was all over you, and you made a couple of mistakes. I said, and then you finally decided to let him by, and I said, well, maybe he was pushing it a little bit, and now he could relax. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely was trying to stay ahead of him and not really hold him up, but he was just all over me and catching up, and I was making too many mistakes, so that's why I let him by. I just decided I didn't want to screw him up any more than I probably already did.
All right. Well, Mario, congratulations again. One final question. Do you plan on making every race this season?
I'm definitely going to try. We'll see. By the end of the season, I might end up having a few races where I might miss with work being, having actual IndyCar races going on towards the end of the season here. But I'll definitely try my best to make as many as I can, and hopefully I'll be able to do something when it comes to points by the end of it.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. And for those people who don't know, Mario Jacobellis is involved in IndyCar. I believe it's the Team Arrow McLaren. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Me and Warren Clayton, who raced in this series last year. I don't know if he was just busy tonight or what the deal was there, but yeah, me and Warren both work on Arrow McLaren, and it's pretty cool to be able to just jump on here and race the kind of cars that we work on every day.
Yes, it is. You might have a little advantage there, knowing these cars so well, having worked on them yourself. Okay, Mario, congratulations again. Why don't you give your shout-outs?
Yeah, thank you very much. First off, I'd like to thank Lincoln Tech, of course, for sponsoring this series here, and then Save 22, Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, InVets, and ATYL. I mean, we wouldn't be doing this without support of a bunch of different people, so appreciate everyone who puts a little bit into this so we can put on a show and drive some race cars, even if it's online here.
All right, Mario, thanks again. And on a personal note, I had a great time racing with you in the NXT cars just a few days ago here in the new GLR series. You put some real pressure on me there. And it's real fun, as always, Mario.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait for the next one.
Amen to that. All right, thanks. You go enjoy celebrate your victory.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good night.
You too, buddy. Mario Jacobellis, everybody. Still here with Noah Hogard in the booth. What a class act that Jacobellis is. We're going to see now if we can get Cody Anderson. Trying to get Cody up here in the booth, and there he is. We've got Cody Anderson. You got a copy on it.
I got you.
All right, Cody, no real specific questions here, but what we do want to know is basically just tell us about your race from start to finish.
Honestly, this is the first time I've run an IndyCar on a road course, so coming out second, I'm pretty happy about it. That's in practice, I felt like I had some pace, and then once we got into race, all my pace just kind of fell to the wayside.
What kind of adjustments were you making to compensate when you saw that, perhaps the drivers that were running in front of you were a little quicker? Were you making adjustments?
Not really. I was still just running my line that I was running through practice and all that. That's James, Mario, and Provo. I really didn't think that I was going to have any pace to catch up to them, but I got lucky that James and Provo both had unforeseen incidents in the race that dropped them back. And then the tight battle that I was having with Wesley, I was honestly thinking that he was going to get by me. He had the better pace than I did, but was able to keep him behind me.
Well, we were grateful for those battles because Jacob Bellis basically was gone. And we were watching you and Wesley Burke and James Silvers. We were watching you guys go at it either for second, third, or sometimes even fourth place. But that was really a lot of fun to watch. And Noah, do you have anything for Cody?
Yeah, Cody, I just wanted to ask, we saw a couple of different pitch strategy here. We saw some people kind of going a little early, some people a little late. Where were you kind of on that pitch strategy? Did you kind of want to stay out there a little bit, or do you kind of want to come in early?
I ran the fuel tank until it was dry.
Well, that answers that question. All right, Cody, congratulations on a second place finish. We look forward to seeing you next week. I believe it's at Phoenix. We'll take a look at the schedule here in just a minute or so after we interview third place Wesley Burke. But why don't you give your shout outs?
Just want to say thanks to Jam Printing and Promotion, Lincoln Tech, MK Fire Design, and Zats Graphics. All you guys at V-Speed for putting on these amazing broadcasts. Alexander PCs, Cruising Classics, GTR Simulators, all the guys over at Powerhouse Motorsports and CSM Motorsports, and then TJ Peters for allowing me to work with them on the sim side with JGR.
All right, Cody, well said. And congratulations again, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
All right, that was Cody Anderson. Now we're looking for third place, Wesley Burke. Wesley certainly had a very interesting night, and we're going to pull him up in the booth and have him tell us about it just as soon as we find him. Meanwhile, Noah, one interesting race outside of the leader, one interesting race.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm really curious here to see what Wesley has to say, because I know for a fact, Wesley, I'm just going to go ahead and ask you, this was definitely a race that I probably think you weren't thinking to get third place of. Wesley, what were kind of your thoughts going into that? Where you're just like, wow, I'm actually gaining some spots here. Are you focused in that, or are you kind of just like laying back a little bit thinking, I don't know what's going to happen?
I was definitely pushing. I was saving fuel, like map 4, map 5, the whole first 2 runs. And then I realized they're going to have to save in their final run. So I was like, okay. And then Cody started backing up to me. I felt like he was kind of braking a lot earlier than he had been. I locked up a few times trying to get him, because I knew if I got around him, I could have had a shot at Jacob Ellis, but it would have been a long shot, but I could have done it, I think. With me not having to save in that final stint and then being on alternates. Just, yeah, that incident with Cody. I wasn't necessarily trying to go. I was trying to go to begin with, and then I realized I was too far back. But by then, it was just too late, and yeah, I locked up a bit, trying to keep that out of him. Just barely made contact. Didn't even get an incident. Just a 0x. So that's up.
Well, Wesley, I believe this is the first time since the update, the iRacing update, that GLR has had a race with the Indy cars where the hybrid system was in play. Where are you using that?
Nope. No idea how.
And that answers that question. All right. Wesley Burke, congratulations on your third place. Time for those sponsors' shout-outs.
I'd like to thank iRacing, MK Fire Design, Sim Motion, Harpoon Design, Zat Graphics, and of course Lincoln Tech for being the title sponsor of the series.
All right. Well said, Wesley Burke. Congratulations on your podium finish. We look forward to seeing you next week at Phoenix, and time for you to go celebrate.
Thank you.
Wesley Burke, everybody. All right. While we've got a minute, if we could put the schedule up, we could talk about what's upcoming. Let's see if we can get that schedule on the screen for everybody to see. We're going to give it a shot, but I believe Phoenix is next week, so we could at least talk about that as we look at our final race results. Mario Jacobellis wins it. Cody Anderson will come across second. Wesley Burke, we just spoke to him, finishing in third. Then it's James Silvers, Brian Provo. That's the top five. Then we go down to Jamie Lipke, Jared Green, Bill Mulfield, Cody Turner, Samuel Yosef rounds out the top 10. And then, of course, the last two in the field, Daryl Young and Alan Bergen. We do expect a higher car count next week as iRacing's Daytona 24 will not be running next week. There will be no special events for a little while anyway. But we do expect a full field next week, and I can't wait to see it. There's the schedule. We just had Sonoma. Next week is going to be Phoenix. That should be a fun barn burner. Then we go to the Daytona road course, the Chicago street course, where there's a wall on both sides. That is going to be a very, very tough course for these drivers.
Yeah, and I'm just looking across the schedule, and it's a good mixture between ovals and road courses, and I love to see that because you can just see different racing disciplines being shown there. You know, you're going to have your oval racers, you're going to have your road course racers, and how they're going to mix into this playoffs, I think is going to be very interesting.
It's going to be fascinating to watch. We've got Pocono, Watkins Glen. Of course, IndyCars no longer race at Watkins Glen or Pocono, and that's a darn shame. Then we go to the nice bull ring of Richmond, Circuit of the Americas. Not my favorite track, but it could produce some good racing. Road Atlanta, Suzuka, so we're going to go outside of Japan. Hopefully there'll be no tsunamis while we're there. Then Homestead, that's right in Miami. Canadian Tire will go up to the neighbors up north. Long Beach, California for the penultimate race, and the season finale will be at the great Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the oval. What a season finale that's going to be. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to this entire season, Noah.
Yeah, and I would pretty much circle all the dates in the calendar. I think each one of these races is going to be really exciting and fun to watch. I'm especially excited for Road Atlanta. I've raced on Road Atlanta before. It's such a fun track, and to see it with IndyCar, I think it's just going to be quite the spectacle.
It most definitely will. It's time for us to wrap up our coverage here at Sonoma. So thank you all for joining us. I'm Rick Ravon for Noah Hogard and Skylar Daly. So long from Sonoma.